Think about this. Metallica's huge lead singer, James Hetfield, who is known for his stern personality and powerful voice, steps into the stage to make a shocking announcement. His criticisms aren't addressed at an outside reviewer or a competitor in the same sector, but at Lars Ulrich, who helped create the band, is the drummer, and has worked with Hetfield for the longest time. What comes out is a story of tension, creative differences, and personal issues that have been building up in Metallica's past for a long time. Metallica is like a ship navigating through rough waves with Hetfield and Ulrich in charge. Their camaraderie has been what's kept the band going, but they couldn't be more different as people. Because Ulrich is fiery and impetuous, Hetfield, who is self-reflective and organized, sometimes didn't get along with him. Since the beginning of Metallica, their conflicts have been an integral aspect of the band's character, just like their music. One of the most well-known incidents was when Saint Anger was being recorded in 2003. Some Kind of Monster, the film that accompanied with the showed how angry Hetfield and Ulrich were with each other. People watched the two males getting into furious arguments. Ulrich's aggressive demands and Hetfield's urge to be in command crashed into each other head-on. Because of this, the band's artistic process was so unorganized that it almost broke apart. Ulrich's continual pursuit for new ideas frequently felt like he was rejecting the band's heritage. Ulrich believed that Hetfield's obstinacy prevented them from moving forward. Nevertheless, they remained together despite all of these issues. Mutual respect was the foundation of the agreement, but it was put to the test by their disparate personalities. Every battle drove Metallica to new heights of success, while simultaneously bringing them closer to the brink. This demonstrates that arguments can be both harmful and beneficial. After his well-known altercation with Napster in 2000, Lars Ulrich, who is not a member of Metallica, became one of the most divisive figures in the music industry. Ulrich battled hard against the file-sharing service because he was a strong supporter of artists' rights, but it cost him dearly. Many of his once admirers turned against him, accusing him of being dishonest and greedy. Consider this, or publicly denouncing hacking in front of Congress. To express their anger, tens of thousands of Metallica fans set fire to their CDs. What was supposed to be a significant victory for artists' rights ended up being a public relations nightmare. Some of Ulrich's friends felt that he was out of touch with the modern world, which is why they didn't enjoy his antagonistic behavior. There's a lot of backlash, including threats of death and public mockery. Ulrich was prepared to confront the Napster catastrophe, but it left him with wounds that would never completely go away. It cemented his reputation as a divisive character who was admired for his convictions, but despised for the manner in which he lived them out. Lars Ulrich's career demonstrates his level of drive. However, it has also been the scene of some of the most well-known altercations in rock history, whether they were between bandmates or between different bands. Ulrich's combative nature frequently led to the dissolution of partnerships and the hurting of sentiments. His drive wasn't the only factor contributing to the clash. For him, it was almost like fuel. It helped him advance, but it also turned many against him. Imagine this. The band is still depressed and furious until Jason Ned, the youthful and enthusiastic bassist who joined Metallica following Cliff Burton's passing, enters. Ned had a difficult task ahead of him from the start. Bossy by nature, Lars Ulrich viewed Nuad as an outsider and a replacement rather than an equal. Because Ulrich frequently disregarded Nuad's contributions, the Foundation's initial concepts were not only disregarded but also underappreciated. In the final mix of the 1988 album Injustice for All, one of the best instances, Nuad's bass noises were nearly undetectable. Supporters questioned if the production's directors, Ulrich and Hetfield, intentionally excluded other artists in this way. It struck Ned hard and served as a reminder that he will always be viewed as an outsider in a long-standing, close-knit community. Newstad's stress level increased while he worked on side projects, particularly Echo Rain. This, in Ulrich's opinion, was a lie and evidence that Newstad's focus was divided. There were violent altercations after that. Ulrich questioned Newstad's commitment to Metallica and attacked his loyalty. The burden became too much to bear by 2001. It was a scar that remained in Metallica's history when New left the group. It served as a clear reminder of how people are frequently harmed by Ulrich's severe standards. The name that will always be associated with Metallica's early years is Dave Mustaine. The band's first lead guitarist, Mustaine, was a gifted but unstable musician who was sacked in 1983 due to his drug usage and erratic behavior. Decades of animosity between Mustaine and Ulrich resulted from their difficult decision to terminate him. Consider this moment. Taken by surprise, Mustaine ended up on a Greyhound bus returning to California with no band, no closing, and no notice. The rage escalated into one of rock's most protracted altercations. Ulrich was putting down his work, Mustaine used to say. Ulrich, who was adamant about Metallica's early success, brought attention to Mustaine's propensity for self-harm. Even when Mustaine had great success with Megadeth, the verbal altercation persisted in interviews, as Mustaine publicly expressed his grievances and Ulrich apologized. Because Ulrich refused to change his mind, the fact that he had been expelled from Metallica remained with him. Their intense fighting became well known. As a reminder that even the best relationships may be destroyed by ego and want. Apart from Metallica, Ulrich frequently harbored animosity towards other thrash metal musicians. Kerry King, the guitarist for Slayer, was one of these competitors. King wasn't hesitant to criticize Metallica's evolving sound, particularly the way they shifted towards a more popular sound in the 1920s with albums like Load and Reload. Metallica's popularity, according to King, came at the expense of its thrash origins, which was disrespectful to the genre they helped establish. Ulrich responded by claiming that King's remarks were motivated solely by jealousy, as he perceived Slayer as a smaller band attempting to surpass them in popularity. There was a greater discussion in metal at the time about whether to pursue mainstream success or remain loyal to the underground culture. The four had the conversation because of the strain. Although the altercation never escalated into outright hostility, it demonstrated Ulrich's frequent disagreement with those who disagreed with Metallica's direction. Then there was Guns N' Roses' enigmatic lead singer, Axl Rose, whose mood swings were as dramatic as Ulrich's. Their well-known 1992 co-headlining tour was marred by issues like protests and late performances. After all, their egos were interfering with their job, and both bands were already vying to be the finest in rock. Rose's erratic behavior frequently left concertgoers waiting for hours, which annoyed Ulrich. When Rose abruptly departed the stage during their Montreal performance, and there were technical issues, the situation became quite tense. A full-fledged altercation resulted from this. Later, Ulrich expressed his displeasure with Rose's lack of professionalism, which heightened their rivalry and turned it into one of rock's most spectacular altercations. Lars Ulrich considered these battles to be more than minor altercations. These were pivotal moments in a career that has been influenced by both collaboration and disagreement. Whether they were rivals or bandmates, he was prepared to take on everyone in his vicinity. He became an ardent backer of Metallica's vision as a result, but it also alienated many individuals. With every fight, he established a reputation as a man who enjoyed stress. In a world where chaos and creation frequently coexisted, he was a motivating force. However, these altercations also revealed a more profound aspect of Ulrich. He didn't hesitate to assert himself, even if it damaged his relationships or caused him to be disliked by others. Conflict wasn't simply going to occur on his planet. It was necessary. It was the catalyst for development, fresh concepts, and ultimately the never-ending pursuit of greatness. The turbulence and intensity of Lars Ulrich's career were mirrored in his personal life. It was fiery, cunning, and bruised from combat. Metallica's fame came from his persistent drive to succeed, but it frequently cost him far more than he anticipated. Ulrich was viewed by the public as a courageous drummer who consistently defended artistic integrity. However, he was coping with the psychological harm that his desire had brought about behind the scenes. Consider a man who is constantly traveling the world with devoted followers, but who struggles to find contentment in his personal life. Although Ulrich's need for perfection served him well in the studio, it was detrimental to him at home. There was more to his two divorces than a simple legal separation. They served as stinging reminders of the reasons he continued to strive for achievement. Early in the 1990s, his first marriage to Debbie Jones ended due to the hectic traveling schedule of heavy metal band Metallica. Jones struggled to find her place in OL's life, which was all about the band, and she wasn't prepared for the craziness that comes with being a rock star. Their once powerful love transformed into resentment and estrangement. Although more well-known, his second marriage to Skylar Sadenstein was equally problematic. Ulrich and Skylar, a physician, appear to be a strange yet potential combination. Their relationship had happy moments, such as when their two boys were born. However, Ulrich's propensity for overworking himself made this base unsustainable. Metallica's hectic schedule and Ulrich's unquenchable need to control every aspect of his profession made their relationship extremely challenging. Ulrich had to confront the reality that while his professional life was improving, his home life was collapsing as his marriage failed. Ulrich had more romantic relationships with women. He was well known for dating well-known women, primarily from the fashion and entertainment industries. Although these brief relationships appeared wonderful on the surface, they frequently failed to provide him with the security he sought but struggled to obtain. It was uncomfortable and obvious that the loop was coming. Ulrich had strong desire followed by emotional detachment because he was unable to completely detach himself from the demands of his job. There was a man battling his own doubts behind the rock star's photo. Strong and forthright, Lars Ulrich was able to confront Napster and his contemporaries. He would look in the mirror and question whether he would ever be able to achieve true balance. He was an unstoppable force in the music industry due to his intense drive, preoccupation with perfection, and determination to be the best. However, his personal life was ruined by these same characteristics. However, amid the mayhem, there was a glimmer of optimism. For Ulrich, fatherhood was both a blessing and a challenge. After his children were born, he had to confront his aspirations and reflect on the choices that had shaped his life. Because he wanted to be present in a way he had never been before, Ulrich, who was constantly working, would make time to attend school functions or read bedtime stories. It wasn't an easy transition. They had to do it because they understood that if success damaged the relationships that mattered most to them, it didn't matter. Being a father did not make the agony of his past transgressions go away, but it did provide him with a fresh perspective. Ulrich began to mend the strained relationships in his life, both with his family and with himself. He was receptive to therapy, introspection, and the agonizing act of acknowledging his shortcomings. There was a shift even in his music. The tone was more contemplative, and unlike his typical demeanor, he wasn't scared to display his vulnerability. Ulrich's personal issues took time to resolve and were never entirely resolved. It was a testament to his strength how hard he pushed to change. He learned to turn the intensity that had previously turned people away into something positive because he was a parent, a musician, and most importantly, a guy seeking serenity in the craziness of his life. There is more to Lars Ulrich's story than just tragedy and achievement. Progress and becoming more like actual humans are the themes of this novel. Even the most resolute and uncompromising personalities must confront their flaws. He moved on with his life after learning from his mistakes. This demonstrates how a person's effect is determined by how they manage the time between achievement and failure, which are frequently two sides of the same coin. The remarks James made about Lars Ulrich in the Hetfield highlight his complexity. They demonstrate a man's complexity. He has been the most contentious member of Metallica, as well as its rock star. Ulrich's life contains a lot of paradoxical elements. Though his views frequently contradicted those closest to him, he was constantly coming up with new ones. He alienated his supporters by standing up for creative integrity. In addition, he was a flawed individual whose troubles fueled one of the greatest rock bands in history. Ulrich has had a significant impact on Metallica and the music industry overall, despite his issues. His tale is one of both achievement and hardship.